Okay, so just hit me so I won't share it. If you're looking at my voice goes away. If you're looking at anybody's life and valuing it more than where you're at in your own life, you are missing out on your life. FOMO applies to you. You're not even really there for your life. You look out into the social spectrum and you see somebody else and you point at what they're doing and what they're living and how they're living. And it's a form of admiration, but it's really like a modulation of admiration that really comes from like not full self-love. Like the self-love knob is kind of turned, but not all the way. So it could be like respect and like admiration, but instead it modulates and it goes to this like you're basically inadvertently putting yourself down and raising where somebody else is up higher than where you're at right now. And so it's a kind of value. Like you kind of value where they're at. You want to be where they're at, basically. So bad, yeah. So it really comes down to that. Are you valuing where somebody else is in their journey more than where you're at in your journey? And if the answer is yes, then you're missing out. It's very simple. That is FOMO. You may not have the fear of missing out, at least not consciously like in you on a daily basis. But upon further investigation, like you'll find that that's what your experience is really at a fundamental level based on. Is you should be afraid of missing out because you're missing out. Even if you are engaged in your life in the extent at which you found something that makes you happy and you're doing that. But a lot of like mainstream society encourages us to find our nook and cranny, to exist there and then kind of just die, produce and conform to these rigid ways of really not even just living but behavior as well. Like you may want to be a little more flamboyant and feminine and your rigid social restrictions of even your family, but family, friends, environment, workplace, where you grew up, geographical kind of just all overall tetherings. Like you can't get out of that, so your identity can't get out of that, so you're not even being you, let alone living the life that you are designed to live. You haven't even gotten to that part. You're stuck in still not being who you even are. How is the world gonna present you? How is the external gonna line up with who you are before the internal can line up with who you are? I feel like that was a super helpful piece for me on my journey was, finding people who inspire you. Even I just said that and it reminded me of Ralph Smart, and like that dude inspired me to even make this video. And just saw something Shia LaBeouf did, and like his vulnerability and sincerity and just inspires. Anybody you see out in the world, I think it's a reflection of ourselves. But if we see somebody else in the world and they seem to be living a life that you value more than your life, you're missing out. It's my belief that everybody has a potential rhythm and pace and way in which they can live their life, that if aligned with that way, you won't be thinking about anybody else's life and what they're doing. You'll be so engaged, and not only just engaged, but fulfilled by your own life, that you won't worry about that other stuff. And so you won't miss out on your life, and you won't fear that you're missing out on their life. Even, I'm sure people will be like, oh, I love my life. No, bro. You look at Jay-Z and you salivate. You look at some guy who's got some girl, or maybe you just look at the girl on Instagram and you're like, oh my goodness. And I think it's for all of us, like on the social world at this point, if you grew up with social media, in contact with social media even a little bit, you can't help, like you see all the variety of humans existing out there. And I think at a certain level, we just kind of want to exist amongst the variety. Like we just want a little piece of the diversity. And it's like, yeah, but still that disconnects us from where we're at right now, who we are. It's really who we're at, because it's just a version of ourselves in this linear timeline road that like we're gonna die way down there, but along the way while we're walking this way, it's like I'd rather do something else. That's really it in a nutshell. Are you in love with somebody else's life more than your life, and you don't even know that person? So you're really just projecting your own absent void chasm within you onto this other person's life and giving them the title of in possession of your dream life. And so really it's kind of like envy, it's kind of jealousy, but it's admiration in a modulated kind of self-deprived way of love, that you're valuing where somebody else is at more than where you're at in your own life. With calibration, you can get inspiration from this person, but without calibration and without awareness of how that person's life is reflecting back your stuff at you, then it can be super harmful, and it can turn into like basically just poking your shadow self until you like want to quit or actually be them. Which, look at how many people you follow on Instagram. And what's your inner self dialogue? What's your self-talk like while you're on Instagram and while you're like tuning into these other people's lives? Like, what's your self-talk like? Is there compassion, and is there I think there's a healthy admiration that the social world has bred. Healthy in, it's self-love, it's self-respect, but it's also tremendous respect and upliftment of others. Recognizing that others have in some way live their life in a way that you recognize as inspirational. Which that's really open-ended and can mean anything, but yeah, are you living your life or are you living theirs? Are you living your mom's life, or are you living your dad's life, or are you living nobody's life? You just watch movies and read books and maybe read about people that are successful in the social landscape, and you fantasize. Don't fantasize, bro. Live your life. Living my life like it's golden. Basically. Shout out to Jill Scott.